Hey, Super Duper Gamer here, and today I'm playing Castle Assault by TJ Dunbar. This is a two-player skirmish game that puts players in their own castle on opposing sides of a battlefield. And players try to send their army across the battlefield with the goal of destroying their opponent's castle first. The game includes 6 fantasy-based factions for the players to choose from: humans, orcs, elves, undead, and also werewolves and vampires. What's more relevant for this video is it also includes a solo campaign. Now this is a scenario-based campaign. It's linear, so there's 9 scenarios that are meant to be played in order, and it actually includes a fairly decent story that you get to read between the scenarios, and then the scenarios are set up to kind of play into the story. And it also includes some ability to upgrade your hero through the campaign. So let's play. The game comes with a large 6-fold board to play on. I've got here the neoprene mat to play on instead. Just know that the game board is the same size. One thing I did find with the game board is sometimes I would get the cards stuck on the edges where the folds were. And on the neoprene mat, I don't have that problem. The cards slide really easily. So here in the back of the rulebook, we find the single player campaign. Like I said, there's some story text here for you to read. And then you get to scenario 1, adjust offensive. And it tells you when to put out what enemies and where. So we'll be referencing that throughout the play. Notice here it says at the start we need 1 mercenary in the center location. So here's the battlefield. We've got the enemy castle at the top and my castle at the bottom, and spaces to march through in the middle. The units are cards, and they'll be marching across the battlefield and trying to attack their opponent's castle. Here we've got health values for the castle starting at 10. As soon as my castle or my opponent's castle is destroyed, that's when the game ends, marking my win or my loss. Here I've got my deck I've chosen to play as the vampires. My starting draw will be 5 cards, and my hero, Lockhart, is right here. Additionally, I've got the enemies that will be coming out staged over here. And this is the turn track. Alright, in my starting hand, I've got the Sanguine Blade. Down here in the bottom left, this is the resource cost to play the card. So this is actually an attachment that I can put on one of my units. And I've got a 2-cost unit, a 4-cost unit, a 1-cost unit, and another Sanguine Blade upgrade. So up here on the numbers on the right, you've got the movement speed, the attack, the defense, and the health value. And at the bottom, you've got the actions for the unit. So here in the corner of the play mat, you've got a description of how to play a turn. Start of phase, roll momentum. So for this, just roll a d6. I got 4. Take the momentum marker and move it 4 spaces in your direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 2, ready resources. I have no exhausted resources. Start of turn effects, there are none yet. Move units, I have no units yet. Draw a card. Urn of Life, here is a command card. So it's like an ability that I can play during my open phase to have a unit recover 2 health. Okay, now what we have is what the game calls the open phase. So in any order I wish, I can do as many of these as I want, as many times as I want. Well, okay, I can play a resource, I can only do that once. And I can play as many units as I want, I can play commands, I can take unit actions. And the unit actions are charge, activate an ability on the unit card, attack, or do nothing. And then we'll move on to the end of turn effects. So in turn 1, usually you just play 1 resource. So you choose any card out of your hand, put it down, it is now a resource. For the rest of the game, you don't have that card anymore in your deck. And to use that resource to play a card, let's take a 1-cost unit. How about the Hemogoblin here? Just tap the resource and play the Hemogoblin. I'm going to play it in the center lane to counter that mercenary. And that's the end of my turn. Now the monster turn is going to play out a little differently because they don't have a deck. So they're just the AI, right? So what you do for them is first you roll momentum, a 1, move it 1 in their direction. Now move the round marker up 1. Now move units, so you check the unit's move value, it is 2, so he's going to move 2 spaces forward. And now every monster unit does their action if they have one. So if you look at the mercenary here, he has an action. It says must take an action to charge. So when a unit charges, and my units can do this too, he's the mercenary who's going to take an action to charge. So you roll a d6, he got 1, and he moves 1 space forward. That was his charge. Now it is the end of their turn. So you check the scenario in the rulebook, and you find that at the end of turn 1, you have one mercenary appear in the left-hand spot. So you take another mercenary, and you put it on the left-hand side of the AI's castle. And now it's back to my turn. So just following the turn order again, it's roll momentum, 4, move it towards you. It can only hit the max, it can't go past that. Ready resources, so untap that, draw a card. Start of turn effects, I have none. Move units. His movement speed is 2, so he will move 2. Now the open phase. So now I can play a resource, play units, take unit actions. Now note on my Hemogoblin, it says cannot charge. So every unit can charge by default. The only units that can't charge are the ones that say cannot charge. So first thing I need to do is decide what I want to put down as a resource, because I'd like to go ahead and play one of my 2-cost cards, either the Vessel Acolyte, which heals adjacent friendly units, or my Sanguine Elf, which has a ranged attack but loses 1 health at the end of each turn. I think I'm going to play the Sanguine Elf, so I need to decide what to get rid of, and I will do the Urn of Life. So I'm going to put this down as another resource, tap 2 resources, and play my Sanguine Elf. And she will go over here to counter the mercenary in the left lane. And that's the end of my turn because he doesn't have any actions he can take. And the card effect on Sanguine Elf says loses 1 health at the end of its turn. Yeah, that includes the turn you put her out. So she loses 1 health. And we use the die to note that instead of 3, she has 2 hit points remaining. So now the monster turn, roll for momentum, 3, increase the round marker, move the units. Whoever's furthest forward moves first. So he moves 2, he moves 2, and now actions. Again, whoever's furthest forward takes actions first. So he has to take a charge action, 5. 1, and now he ran into my Hemogoblin. So it doesn't really matter in this case, but just to explain the rules, his attack value is 2, but since he was charging, and since he was going to charge past my Hemogoblin and ran into him, he gets a +1 attack bonus. So he actually attacks for 3. That's reduced by my Hemogoblin's defense of 0, so he takes 3 hits to his 1 hit point, so he will die. Now they attack simultaneously, so Hemogoblin will also counterattack for his attack value of 3, and the mercenary has a hit point value of 1, so he will die also. So both of them are discarded, and every time you kill an enemy unit, you get to draw a card. Now this mercenary will do his action, which is also a charge. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now they are adjacent to each other, so they do engage, they do enter into combat, but since his charge ended here and he didn't charge into the enemy, he does not get that +1 attack bonus. So he will attack for his attack value of 2. Being that the Sanguine Elf only has 2 hit points, she will die, but she attacks for 4, and being that the mercenary has no defense and only 1 hit point, he will also die. And again, by destroying an enemy unit, I get to draw a card. Alright, and that's the end of turn 2, so check our scenario card and find at the end of turn 2 we spawn 1 elite mercenary in the lane with the closest player unit, but there are no player units, so they are all tied. So we will randomly decide with a die roll, and we'll assign values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and roll the die. 6, so we're going to spawn an elite mercenary in the right lane. Alright, my turn, roll momentum, 1, ready resources, draw a card, start of turn effects, I have none, move units, I have none, into my open phase. So let's take a look. Dissipate, I can use this to give one of my allies gaseous form, which allows them to charge through ally and enemy units. Sanguine Imp, this one has Drain, which is sort of the vampire ability where if you kill an enemy and you don't die, you get to steal health. This is a Lord, so you can only have 1 Lord on the battlefield at a time. This is an extra strong unit, so it's got 5 hit points and a ranged attack. But it costs 5 to play. It will be a while before I can do that. So it looks like the only thing we could play are our Imp or our Vessel Acolyte. Let's go ahead and drop the Imp first. So let's put down another resource because we can only do that once a turn. We don't want to lose our opportunity. And we're going to pay 2 resources to play this Sanguine Imp in the right lane. Now this isn't really ideal because the Elite Mercenary has 3 hit points, but I don't have something to counter him with. Once we can get Asriel out, she is very strong, mostly because she has this 1 armor, but she also has an attack value of 4. So once we get her out, we're safe. For now, we'll throw the Imp down and see how it goes. Okay, that's the end of my turn, so he loses a hit point. For the enemy turn, they roll Momentum, 3. Move the turn marker forward, move the units. He has a move value of 4. And now the unit's abilities. He takes a charge for 2. And now at the end of turn 3, we get 1 mercenary in the lane with the closest player unit, which will be the right lane. For my turn, roll Momentum, 3. Ready resources, draw a card. Move units. He only has a movement value of 1. And I drew Sanguine Zombie, which costs 3 to play. He's got 6 hit points, attack value of 4, but he loses 2 health at the end of each turn, and he cannot charge. But he does have Drain, so let's see. No, if he attacks the Elite Mercenary, he will die. He has a move value of 5. Let's go ahead and play him. First, we need to decide what to put down. So I'm going to put down this Vessel Acolyte as a resource. And I'm going to pay 3 resources to play my zombie over here. And I'm also going to play 1 resource to play Sanguine Blade. Target unit gains regen. This ally regains 1 lost health at the start of its turn. And I'm going to put that on the zombie. Now, it's still my open phase. I'll choose to do an action with the Sanguine Imp of Charge. Now, all I need to do is roll a 2, and I can get that charge bonus for 3 attack, because he has 3 hit points, and I only have 2 attacks. So if I only charge for 1, it's not going to go well. I charge for 1. Okay. So now they engage. He attacks for 4, he attacks for 2, so he dies, and the Elite Mercenary drops down to 1 hit point. That was unfortunate, but it should be alright because we're in Scenario 1, and Scenario 1 is pretty easy. Alright, that'll be the end of my turn, so we do the end of turn effects. Sanguine Zombie loses 2 hit points, so he drops from 6 to 4. Moving on to the enemy phase. 5 momentum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Move units, 1, 2, and if he's moving into the castle, it's an attack, so he attacks for 4. So it dropped from 10 to 6. And then move the mercenary, 1, 2, and now actions. His action will not be a charge. Since he is adjacent to an empty castle spot, he will attack the castle as his action for 4 hits. So from 6 to 2. And his action will be a charge of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, forgot to move that. Alright, end of turn 4. 1 Elite Mercenary on closest player unit. So it's going to be this lane over here gets an Elite Mercenary. And that's the end of the AI. So now my turn, roll for momentum, 3, 1, 2, 3, ready resources, draw a card. Start of turn, he heals 1 hit point. So he moves up from 4 to 5, and then move units. He has a move speed of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He cannot charge those, so there's no action I can take with him. What I really need to do right now is put something here to kill this Elite Mercenary, and also to defend against that Mercenary, because that Mercenary will also destroy my castle. But I do have enough to play Asriel now. So I'm going to go ahead and drop, or I could play Nishal, Lord of the West. He costs 5. I could play a resource to have 5. But he attacks for 4. That would leave him with 1, and then he would kill the mercenary also. So that would work. But honestly, Asriel is going to be better because of that 1 armor, and you'll see how that works. So I'm just going to go ahead and pay 4 and put Asriel here. So they immediately enter combat. She attacks for 4, which kills him. He attacks for 4. It gets reduced by 1, so she takes 3 hits. She's down to 2 HP. So the elite mercenary is dead, and for killing an enemy unit, I get to draw a card. Now I can't take an action with her because she just came into play this turn. But look, also she has Drain. Now Drain is kind of the vampire thing, and it says after combat, if this ally is not destroyed, and this only happens if you defeat your opponent. You regain health equal to the health removed from the opposing unit. Unfortunately, the opposing unit only had 1 health, so I'll just regain 1, but she goes back to 3 HP. I'll go ahead and play a resource. Now that'll be the end of my turn. Moving on to the AI. Sanguine Zombie at the end of my turn loses 2 hit points, so he drops from 5 to 3. Moving on to the AI, roll Momentum, 6. Move the round marker up, move units. Alright, so now they engage. She attacks for 4, killing the mercenary. The mercenary attacks for 2, gets reduced by 1, so she drops to 2 HP. But since she killed this unit and she survived, she drains 1 hit point, bringing her back to 3 HP. So the mercenary dies, and I draw a card. He moves 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, so they engage. Alright, he attacks for 4, it gets reduced by 0, and the zombie only has 3 hit points, so the zombie will die. The zombie has an attack value of 4, it gets reduced by 0, and the elite mercenary has 3 hit points, so the elite mercenary will also die. Now, when you lose a unit with an attachment, they both go in your discard pile. But I did kill the enemy unit, so I get to draw a card. Alright, so the enemy has no units left, so that's the end of turn 5, and we see at the end of turn 5, 1 mercenary spawns in a random location, so we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so the mercenary is going to spawn in the right hand column. Over to my turn, roll Momentum, 1, ready resources, draw a card. Start of turn effects, I have none, move units, Asriel's move value is 1. And now my open phase, I can do anything in whatever order I want. The first, if I want to, I could say charge with Asriel. That can be the first thing I do. Alright, she charges for 1. And now I can still play a resource, play units, whatever else I wanted to do. Alright, I'm going to try to show you some more of the game here. So I want to play Nishal, Lord of the West for 5. Would I have 5? I'm actually going to go ahead and drop another resource also though. So I'm going to pay 5 for Nishal, play him here. And the other thing you can do in this game is you can play your hero at any time for free. But if your hero dies, you lose the game. So it's a risk. And that's the end of my turn because she already took her action. Alright, moving on to the AI, roll for Momentum. They're at max, increase the round marker, go 2 spaces, now do actions. The mercenary takes a charge. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, they engage. He strikes for 2. It gets reduced by 1, bringing her down to 2. She strikes for 4, killing him and draining 1 HP, so she ends at 3. And for killing the mercenary, I get to draw a card. That's the end of turn 6. At the end of turn 6, 1 elite mercenary, closest player unit, so that's going to be, again, the right hand lane. Alright, now my turn, roll for Momentum, 1, of course. Ready resources, draw a card. Start of turn effects, I have none, move units, her move value is 1, move value 2, move value 1. And now do whatever I want. I'm going to charge with Asriel for 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to charge with Nishal, 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to charge with Lockhart for 1, 2, 3, 4. And I will drop another resource, kind of just whatever I want, because at this point I'm pretty sure I'm about to win the game. And I'll move this over to pay 4 for my Sanguine Dragon. I like this guy because he has a massive attack value of 7, but he does lose 1 health at the end of his turn. Okay, so he goes here, he has 5 hit points. This is the end of my turn, so we'll drop him down to 4. Okay, roll Momentum for the AI, 1. Increase the round marker, move units, they engage. She attacks for 4, killing him. He attacks for 4, it gets reduced by 1. She takes 3 hits, so she actually dies now. Asriel is dead, the elite mercenary is dead, and for killing an AI unit, I get to draw a card. That's the end of turn 7. At the end of turn 7, we get 2 mercenaries in the castle. When it says in the castle, that means player's choice. I really don't want my hero to be at risk, so I'm going to spawn the mercenaries not next to my hero. Okay, I will roll for my momentum. 2. Ready resources, draw a card, start of turn effects. There are none. Move units. We've got a move value of 3, 2, and 1. And now my open phase. I got a Bloodhound. It's a 1-cost unit. I don't need that at this point, so I'm going to put him down as a resource. Now I've got another Nishal Lord of the West, but I can't play it because he's a Lord, and I already have a Lord on the board. So I'm going to skip that. I'm just gonna do charges. I think I can win the game with what I have out. So I'm gonna charge with the dragon first. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They engage. Alright, he hits for 7, killing him. He hits for 2, but he has 2 armor, so he takes no damage. Mercenary dies, I draw a card. Charge with Nishal Lord of the West. 6, 1, 2. So charge bonus. He gets +1, so he attacks for 5. And the mercenary counterattacks for 2. Nishal has no armor, so he will take 2 hits, dropping his hit points to 5. Mercenary dies, I draw a card. Charge with my hero Lockhart. 1. Okay, end of turn. Dragon loses 1 HP. And moving on to the AI, roll momentum 4. Increase the round marker. And they have no units to move or take actions. So end of round 8, we get 1 mercenary captain at closest player unit. Now it's tied, so we'll roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So the mercenary captain, which is a bit of a stronger unit, 6 attack and 4 hit points, will spawn in the center lane. Now when she spawns already adjacent to an enemy, they immediately enter combat. So she attacks for 6, killing Nishal Lord of the West. He counterattacks for 4, killing the mercenary captain. So they both die. And I draw a card. But we also have 1 elite mercenary at closest player unit. So now that is certainly the right lane. So elite mercenary will spawn here, engaging with the sanguine dragon, and attack for 4. The sanguine dragon is armor 2, so it gets reduced, and he will take 2 hits, dropping him to 1. He counterattacks for 7, killing the elite mercenary, and I draw a card. Now, back to my turn. Alright, roll momentum. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ready resources. Draw a card. Move units. So if he would move into the castle, he instead attacks the castle for 7, dropping it to 3. And then Lockhart has a move value of 1. Now if there was an enemy here, they would engage immediately, but just moving next to an empty castle spot is not enough to actually attack it. But now we move on to my open phase where I can take actions, and I can take an attack action with Lockhart to do 2 damage to the castle. And I can take an attack action with the dragon to do 7 damage to the castle, and that's the end of the game. Well, that was good, but maybe too easy, don't you think? Let's try scenario 2. Alright, moving on to scenario 2. There's now a magic armor in the center position of the castle. This is explained in the campaign story. Basically, I'm trying to retrieve it, but since it's here, I won't be able to attack the center lane. I have to attack the castle from the right or the left. And again, the goal is to destroy the enemy's castle. Some scenarios do have a different goal. So I've reshuffled my deck. Let's start by drawing 5 cards. At this point, I do have the option to mulligan if I don't like what I drew. I really like to have a 1-cost unit in the draw because it's kind of hard starting a game without anything to put out. And I also have a Bloodhound, which only lasts for 2 turns, but he's a cheap unit to throw out at the beginning of the game. Okay, I'm good with it, so we're going to go ahead and start. I get to go first, and I start by rolling momentum. 6 will max it out, draw a card, Young Blood. Alright, I'm going to play him as a resource, tap to play Hemogoblin in the center lane to counter that Gelatinous Ooze. But really, the Gelatinous Ooze, it's going to end up all over the place. It does some crazy stuff, you'll see. Alright, enemy rolls momentum, 6, move units. Units takes actions. His action is expand. Make sure we mark turn 1. So expand, it means he will spawn another gelatinous ooze in an adjacent spot. So that's either here, 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 or here. So we'll assign it dice. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, so it's going to spawn adjacent in the left. And that's the end of their turn. At the end of turn 1, according to the scenario guide, nothing spawns. Back to me, roll momentum. Ready resources, draw a card. Start of turn effects, move units. Alright, he cannot charge, so he's stuck there for now. Sanguine Imp, I drew a 2-cost card that loses 1 health at the end of its turn. He has an attack value of 2. These gelatinous oozes only have 1 hit point, and they have attack values of 2. Alright, I'm going to play another resource and then spend 2 to drop my Sanguine Imp. Alright, end of turn, he loses 1 health, so he goes down from 3 to 2. And enemy turn. 4 on the momentum, increase the round number, do the movements. Now, technically, whoever is furthest ahead takes the action first, and if they're in the same row, you should roll to see who, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, roll to see who takes their action first. But in this case, it doesn't matter. He's going to expand to here or here, and he's going to expand to here, here, or here. So I'll just do him first, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then him, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's the end of turn 2. And at the end of turn 2, nothing spawns. Now for the rest of the game, at the end of every turn, we're going to spawn another gelatinous ooze in the lane with the closest player unit. Back to me, 2 on the momentum, ready resources, draw a card, start of turn effects, move units. Alright, and since he takes damage every round automatically, I'm going to go ahead and try to get him into combat. So I'm going to charge with him. 1. That didn't work. But he still has another turn to survive and try to kill something. Okay, so I drew a Vessel Acolyte, which actually heals adjacent units. I don't think it's going to work for him because these do 2 damage. So if he's at full health, he would survive, but it's going to be tough to make that do anything good. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that down as another resource and pay 3 to get out a Sanguine Golem. He has 5 hit points and he loses 1 health at the end of each round. Alright, that's the end of my turn, so I'm going to drop the Imp's health down to 1 and the Golem's health down from 5 to 4. Now going into AI, roll momentum, 2, they're maxed, increase the turn. So he moves first, and now one of these 2 move. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He moves first, and then he moves. Now they are in combat. He hits for 3, killing him. He hits for 2, killing him. So they both die, and I draw a card. And he moves. Now actions. He takes his action first. There's only 2 adjacent spots for him to expand to, so we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now at the end of turn 3 and every turn after, I'll spawn a gelatinous ooze in the lane with the closest player unit. That's going to be the left lane. Over to me, roll momentum, ready resources, draw a card, start of turn effects, move units. Whoever's furthest ahead moves first. So they engage and attack. He kills him, he kills him. I draw a card. Now this could come in handy actually on this, because this gives the target ally gaseous form, which lets me charge through enemy units and skip over them. Anyways, he does his move, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now my open phase. So I'm going to go ahead and have this Sanguine Golem charge, see if I can get him to the enemy castle as this lane is clear. In this scenario, it's very common for all 3 lanes to just be totally full all the time, and you have to figure out how to fight your way through. But if I can get him through to the castle, he has an attack value of 6. He could just take care of it in 2 hits. Let's see what he can do. 3. 1, 2, 3. Not ideal, but he will move into it next turn. So we'll see. That could work out. Alright, and this is the end of my turn, so he loses 1 health. He drops from 4 to 3. Alright, now enemy turn. Roll momentum. They get a 1. Increase the round. Move everyone forward. And then start doing the abilities. So expand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's getting dangerously close to my castle. He only has one spot to expand to. He only has one spot to expand to. He only has one spot to expand to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now there are no oozes left for him to expand or to spawn one in the area with the closest player unit, which would have saved them if they had any left to spawn there, but they used up all their oozes expanding on the battlefield. Stupid AI. Okay, my turn. 6. Ready resources, draw a card. Alright, I got a nice lord here, Delineus the Crimson Prince. He has Resurrection. Alright, it'll be cool if I can show you how a Resurrection works before this game's over, but I don't think I'm going to get the chance to. Alright, because first I have to move units. 3, 1, 2, 3, and since he would move into the castle, he instead attacks it for 6. Now, my open phase. I will use his action to attack. He will attack the castle for 6. Castle is dead, I win the scenario. Alright, so that's me playing Castle Assault. I hope you enjoyed watching me play and gained a basic understanding of this game. I really wanted to show you 2 scenarios to show you how the game changes in each scenario. They're not just superficial changes when you go from scenario to scenario, they actually have some game-changing stuff. And then in scenario 3 changes the victory condition. Instead of destroying the castle, you have to clear the battlefield. As soon as there's no enemy units on the battlefield, you've won. Also, scenario 3 is easy enough to beat, but it has sort of a side mission, an extra goal, where you have to do that in order to level up your hero, which is something you want to do to get your hero stronger to make it all the way through the campaign. But it's much harder than just completing the scenario. Basically, it's got the gelatinous ooze, but it only has one of them, and that's all it ever spawns. And you have to wait for it to expand until there would be a 12th gelatinous ooze added to the battlefield, and then instead you get the Ooze Lord, which is this boss with 47 hit points, which is, of course, completely different than anything you saw me do in scenario 1 or 2. So it's really nice how it keeps expanding and changing the game as you move through the campaign. And then there's more bosses and monsters and stuff that can happen through the campaign that you haven't gotten to see yet. So that helps keep it exciting as you're moving through. Additionally, I find that when I play 1, 2, 3 scenarios, by the time I want to play again, but I'm like, I don't really want to go into the 4th scenario because it feels like it's getting to be kind of a grind. There's 6 factions in this game. I open a different faction and play scenario 1 with it, and I have a blast. And coming with 6 factions, really nice. I think this is supposed to be a 2-player game. They put a lot of effort into the solo campaign, and as a solo gamer, I really, really appreciate that. And I'm glad I got it, and I'm glad I have it on my shelf. And even though all I've done is play the solo game, but I think it was modified to be a solo game. You know, it's supposed to be a 2-player game, and I'm interested in seeing that. Hopefully, I can find someone to give this game a go with me at some point, because I'd like to see how these factions play out against each other and how they balance. Speaking of switching factions, though, completely different playstyles. You saw as I was playing vampires, a lot of my units lost 1 health at the end of my turn. A lot of my units had drain. Okay? If you play as undead, a lot of your units have resurrection, and a lot of your units have gaseous form, which changes your strategy and changes how you attack this battlefield full of ooze. Same with the elves. The elves have a lot of guys with ranged abilities, which you didn't see me do any ranged attacks. And so that completely changes how you play and what strategy you need to put into it to clear the battlefield. So that's I like the variety. I love the artwork. The artwork is why I bought this game. Okay, so problems with this game. The board is too big. I mean, the way you send these cards across the battlefield, like you saw, you can roll a charge value of 6, and your unit just goes from your castle to the opponent's castle in one move, in one turn. And it's just like, it's so much space, it didn't need to be that big. But if you have the room for it, it's kind of fun having it be that big, I guess. But it seems wasteful. The rule book, most of the rules are covered in a format that is just example turns. And it makes it's okay when you're reading through it the first time, I guess, but it's impossible to find anything in here to reference. And also a lot of details got missed. Some things are good, like on page 3, It breaks down how to do a turn and what each step of each phase of the turn should be. And that's written out really nicely and plainly in good rule format. But after that, it just goes into this example game format, which is impossible to learn the details of the game in. I mean, it's good enough to give you a feel for the game and to start playing, but whenever you want to look something up or clarify a specific rule, the info's not here. Spelling errors abound, which is kind of a pet peeve of mine, because my first time reading the rule book, I find 10 spelling errors. It's like, okay, did you have anyone try to proofread your rule book? I mean, if you write your own rule book and then you try to proofread it yourself, it's really hard to do. Like, it's hard for me to proofread my own writing because you already know what you wrote, and so you sort of like skip read it. You have someone else read it, like me. My first time reading this rule book, I found so many spelling errors. So it's hard for me to believe that they actually had anyone go through and try to edit their rule book for them. I mean, I would have done it. It just takes a couple hours. It's a game I was heavily invested in on Kickstarter. I totally would have read their rule book and told them where all the spelling errors were. I didn't know it was going to be an issue. It also says on the rule book to go to momentumvolsk.com for videos about how to play the game. Apparently they don't own that domain anymore, so it's kind of unfortunate that that's printed there. Okay, the other negative I have for this game is super luck-based. For example, there is one scenario that starts with 2 enemies out, and my lowest unit cost was 2, so I didn't play anything first turn. Both the enemy units did like rolled 6 on their charge, so they're already attacking my castle. On the next turn, I could play my unit that cost 2, but he was only able to block one of those 2 units that started, so then the remaining unit just destroyed my castle on turn 2. And that was it. Okay, one thing you didn't see during my playthroughs is at the end of your turn, you actually have to discard down to a hand size of 5. Where this gets annoying is every time you kill an enemy unit, you have to draw a card. So in scenario 2, sometimes it takes me a lot longer to get through those oozes. I got kind of lucky that the right lane was just wide open for me to charge through. And also, I rolled a good charge. If I had rolled a 1, I would have got blocked off by the oozes, and the game would have turned out completely differently. But when there's so many oozes out and they just keep multiplying and you kill them, you have to draw. And by the end of your turn, you've got like 12 cards in your hand and you have to discard 7 of them, and you haven't even figured out what you have yet. So you just kind of, it's easier to just pick 5 that you know you want and throw the rest away, and you don't, without even looking at what they were, because you just draw and discard so fast when it comes to that. Especially if you want to keep the momentum of the game going, which I do, because one thing I do like about this game is it plays fast. The scenarios you saw me play went very quickly. A more difficult or more intricate scenario might take 30 minutes. But the turns go fast. Your turn goes fast, monster turn goes fast. You don't have to take a lot of time doing a lot of accounting or bookkeeping or upkeep. The gelatinous oozes, that's probably the most upkeep in the game, because you have to roll for what direction they're going to expand to over and over and over again. That's it for my review of Castle Assault. So I always rate every game. This one to me is a 6, which is, it's better than mediocre. It's an okay game. We'll play sporadically when in the right mood. Definitely things going for it are the good artwork and the variety of factions to choose from, and how much each scenario actually varies, and each new monster that they introduce really changes the gameplay. You've got the effort put into the solo campaign, the story, and how the scenarios really play into the story. Well done. Things holding it back, the rulebook is written poorly. It's laid out poorly. There's spelling errors all over it. Their website doesn't exist. Gameplay-wise, I can't comment on the 2-player, but the solo gameplay, even though the campaign mode is like, they really put a lot into it, and it's good. It's really good. Compared to the 1-player variants of most games, it's really good. But it's still supposed to be a 2-player game, and you can tell. And the 1-player campaign is starting to feel a little stale, a little repetitive, even after just 3 days of me playing this game. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed having a look at this game with me, and I'll see you next time.